The Washington Commanders and their fans got a triple dose of bad news today. And today on the Commanders Report, we're going to be breaking down that bad news. And then also we'll be talking a little bit about free agency rumors as well to finish out today's show. But before we get into the content today, shout out to Jose Ortiz for the $2 super thanks that he put on our video yesterday. I said that anybody that put in a super thanks yesterday would get a shout out on today's show. Jose ended up being the only one that put in a super thanks, and it was just $2, but hey, we appreciate every single dollar that you guys send into our channel here at the Commanders Report, and we're going to give you a shout out, whether it's $2 or whether it's $100 to the channel. So if you guys want to get a shout out on a future edition of the Commanders Report, you guys can send in a super thanks on this video. If you want to send in a thanks, there's a button down below this video that looks like a money sign with a heart around it. You guys can select that and then pick any dollar amount, send that in, and we will feature you on a future edition of the Commanders Report, just like we did with Jose Ortiz. Jose, big shout out to you for your donation. All right, so let's get into the bad news here. The first thing is that the tush push is here to stay. The Philadelphia Eagles' favorite play is not banned by the NFL. It looked like for a while there that the NFL was gearing up to potentially ban this play, which would have potentially benefited the Washington Commanders, because you got to play the Philadelphia Eagles at least twice a year, and this is the play that they go to in short yardage situations and at the goal line. So not seeing it being able to be used would have been a disadvantage for the Philadelphia Eagles, which would have been good news for the Washington Commanders. But if I'm being completely honest with you guys, I'm not sure that this is that big of a deal. I think that the Eagles probably still would have ran a ton of QB sneaks, even if people weren't allowed to push Jalen Hurts in the back and propel him forward. So, I think that this is something where it's going to be in the game, and that's perfectly fine by me. In fact, I like that the Eagles don't have the excuse anymore when the Commanders win this division next year. I cannot wait for the excuses to come, but that excuse is not going to be a ban of the tush push. Then some more bad news here from Jordan Schultz, where he says All-Pro wide receiver Terry McLaurin was not at practice today as offseason workouts continue. He had been a full participant previously and is entering the final year of his contract, worth monitoring as Phase 3 of Washington's program kicks off in under a week. And OTAs are right around the corner for the Washington Commanders, and we will be tracking whether or not Scary Terry is at those practices when the helmets go on next week for Commanders OTAs. But just like the tush push thing, I'm not too worried about this at all. Terry was there for most of Phase 1 and Phase 2 already, and these things are voluntary, man. And we know that the contract situation is what it is right now, and I'm sure that Terry might even do some posturing this offseason, kind of making it seem like, hey, you got to pay me my money, all this different stuff. I just feel a very high sense of confidence, guys, that the Washington Commanders are going to get a deal done here. Terry loves playing for the Commanders. The Commanders love Terry being their number one wide receiver. They're not going to, trade him away. That's not going to happen. They're trying to win a Super Bowl now. They're going to eventually come to a deal with Terry McLaurin. So with all this hoopla that's going to be happening here over the next several weeks, and we're going to be covering it here on this channel, I just want you guys to not get too worked up or too concerned about it, because I think at the end of the day, a deal is going to be struck between the Commanders and Terry McLaurin this offseason. Then a final bit of potentially bad news here is that the Washington Commanders will be featured on HBO's in-season version of Hard Knocks along with the other three teams in the NFC East. Last year, they shifted to the divisional format there with in-season Hard Knocks, where they featured the AFC North. Now they're shifting to the NFC East, and this is going to be a fun ride, man. You got the Commanders with Jaden Daniels and Dan Quinn in their second year. You got the Giants with a really interesting quarterback situation, and then their head coach and GM are on the hot seat. The Eagles are coming off a Super Bowl, and the Dallas Cowboys are the Dallas Cowboys, right? Whatever can go wrong will go wrong, and I can't wait to see it in front of a national audience here. But I think that when you look at this kind of situation with the Commanders being on Hard Knocks, it's another potential disadvantage for Washington this year, and another potential distraction for the Commanders this year, because they already have a ton of nationally televised games that are at night that kind of messes up with the players' normal schedule during the week. And now that they have this to deal with as well, with Hard Knocks cameras, being in the building, it's just another thing that the Commanders are going to have to deal with here. But I think the fair aspect of this is that all three of the other teams in the division have to deal with it. At least that aspect of it is fair, where every single team in this division is going to have to deal with the cameras and the distraction of Hard Knocks being in the building. And as a fan, I'm really excited to see Dan Quinn and see Jaden Daniels and get that look behind the curtain. But from a football perspective, it's been pretty well documented that these teams feel like this is a pretty big distraction, which obviously isn't ideal for a team trying to propel themselves to Super Bowl contention in 2025 like the Commanders are. We did a video yesterday on how the NFL is screwing the Washington Commanders in 2025. I break down all my reasonings for that in that video. I'll put the link to that video in the comments and description of today's show so you guys can check that one out. But what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comments section. Is being on Hard Knocks a good or bad thing for the Washington Commanders this year? Type G if you think it's good, or type B if you think it's bad. This will be the pinned comment on today's show. In just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our sponsor today at Fanatics. Well, I'm telling you about Fanatics today. Let me know if you think Hard Knocks for the Commanders this year is a good or bad thing. And with that, let's have a word from our sponsor here at Fanatics, where you guys can pick up a brand new Jaden Daniels Commanders jersey if you haven't already. And if you haven't gotten a Jaden Daniels jersey yet, guys, what are we doing? This guy is the next superstar quarterback of this franchise. I have a very good feeling that the next time this organization hoists a Lombardi trophy, he is going to be the one hoisting it. And if you guys want a jersey that you're going to be able to wear for the rest of your life as a Washington Commanders fan, you can get that today with this Jaden Daniels jersey when you go to chatsports.com/Daniels. And then also another benefit of this is it helps out the show, because if you click our link, chatsports.com/Daniels, and you make a purchase with our friends at Fanatics today, Fanatics kicks us part of the proceeds of that purchase. So it helps us out. It helps you out because you get that Jaden Daniels jersey. So, I'd really appreciate if you go to chatsports.com/Daniels and get that jersey today if you're already planning on getting a JD5 jersey for your collection. So now let's shift our focus here to a couple of Bleacher Report free agency targets that have been linked to the Washington Commanders in a new article from Bleacher Report. First up, Za'Darius Smith, the edge rusher, formerly with the Detroit Lions last season. This is what Moton, the Bleacher Report author here, had to say in this article. When the Detroit Lions needed to shore up their pass rush after Aiden Hutchinson suffered a fractured fibula and tibia, they acquired Za'Darius Smith from the Cleveland Browns. Smith filled the role adequately, logging 15 pressures and 4 sacks in 8 outings with the Lions. At 32, Smith will likely draw interest from teams that need a designated closer on the edge. Based on his half-season production with the Lions, he can fill that role. The Commanders have Dorance Armstrong and Clelin Ferrell set to bookend their defensive line. Smith would be their best pass rusher. And I completely agree with Moton here that if they sign Za'Darius Smith today, he would be their number one edge rusher, and I'd be perfectly cool with this move, guys. He is somebody that's been in this league a long time. He's probably looking to try and win Super Bowls at this point in his career, and he would be the best pass rusher on an NFL team if he signed with the Washington Commanders. I'm sure that's very appealing to him. So if the Commanders show interest in him, I do think that he would be more than willing to even take a discount to come play for the Washington Commanders. Now, obviously, I would rather have Trey Hendrickson. He's younger than Za'Darius Smith is. He's more productive than he is. If you want to get kind of that superstar level player for your defense for the next half decade plus, Trey Hendrickson is going to be more of that type of guy. Za'Darius Smith is more of a Band-Aid and more of a short-term solution at this position. So if you can get Trey Hendrickson, that's absolutely the move that I would make. But if that move becomes unlikely at any point during the offseason and you feel like you just got to address this position with somebody that you feel can be your number one edge rusher this year, I think Za'Darius is somebody that can certainly fill that role for the Burgundy and Gold. Then the other free agent that was linked to the Commanders in this article is wide receiver Amari Cooper. This one was very interesting to me, and this is what Moton had to say about the former Pro Bowl receiver. Even though Cooper is coming off a down year, largely because of injuries, he's still a technical route runner. Also, the veteran-savvy receiver saw a notable increase in his catch rate after the Cleveland Browns traded him to the Buffalo Bills, improving from 45.3 to 62.5%. In a decent quarterback situation, Cooper can be a 1,000-plus yard receiver. if Cooper prefers to play with a young quarterback like Josh Allen, the Washington Commanders could be an option if the interest is mutual. So I do think Amari Cooper would be an interesting addition for the Washington Commanders if they ended up doing that. And, on paper, Amari Cooper is a better receiver right now than Noah Brown is. All right. So if you just want to max out this wide receiver room for 2025, I do think Cooper is an upgrade to Noah Brown. But, I do think that because he's a former number one receiver in this league and still a bona fide number two, he's going to want to get paid like that, all right? And because he's getting to this point in the offseason, I'm sure it won't be that lucrative, but I do think that he would want at least like $15, maybe $20 million on a one-year deal, and I just don't know if Washington is going to be willing to give that to Amari Cooper. Like, is he that much of an upgrade to Noah Brown? Like, would you really, take away your opportunity of potentially getting a guy like Trey Hendrickson or an edge rusher this offseason just to sign another receiver? I don't know if that's necessarily something that the Washington Commanders are really looking into, but hey, if you can get him for the right contract number and the right price on a one-year deal, he is absolutely still somebody that can be a legit number two receiver on the outside. He is big. He can get open to all levels of the field with his foot quickness and route running proficiency. He's been a number one receiver in this league for a long time, and even though he did take a step back last year, I still think he's more than capable, now that he's back to fully healthy, of being a legit number two receiver in the National Football League. And hey, if the Commanders sign him, I will absolutely be excited about it. Now let me know down there in the comment section, would you sign Amari Cooper to be the next wide receiver 2 here in Washington? And by the way, yes, I understand Deebo Samuel is here, but he's more of a gadget type of receiver than a true number 2 guy on the outside. So let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. S for sign or P for pass. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. And that'll be it for today's edition of the Commanders Report by Chat Sports. Make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already for more Commanders content that will be coming your way later this week. So make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. And until next time, guys, hail to the Commanders.